Hey guys, today I actually be kind of picking up right where I left the last video I made. We pulled the wiring harness out of the 280Z, and that's kind of where I ended that last video. Today we're actually going to be picking back up with this harness. I've started cutting away the loom on it, and like I said, getting rid of the regulator circuit as well as cleaning up some of this wire here, the alternator wiring, because we're going with a 3-wire General Motors alternator, so I no longer need all this harness. And in the process of taking this thing apart, I found out probably why a lot of Datsuns have wiring problems. There's a lot of things butted, as you can see here, where they take a wire and put a wire together, and of course it's all loomed together. You know, it's got like a shield on them, but lots and lots of that. And I'm going to try to eliminate as much of that as I can. I know they're all going to come to a place in the harness up here where there are individual wires. So what I'm going to actually do is change the gauge of wire to a larger gauge and get rid of a lot of these joints like that right there. This would be your primary power input. This is actually what goes to your starter. So this is actually where the 12 volt side comes in. Of course it goes up through your fusible links, which I'm getting rid of. I'm putting in some circuit breakers for these particular things. You can see this is that one that was all melted, which actually goes to the alternator. And you can see that we've got some wiring that's just not very healthy. It's got cuts in it, started corroding internally. So this wiring's got hot. As you can see, this wire in particular for the alternator has gotten hot. So that's probably all part of this right here. But basically what I'm going to do is just clean all this up. But in the process, first things first, I'm getting rid of our actual regulator connections. And I was going through this thing, and I've got most of it figured out. I've actually made notes here. So the white wire here, it's directly power. It's going straight to 12 volts through this harness here, which goes up to your alternator. So that's the white wire. The yellow wire is actually one that threw me for a loop, but I had to kind of do some research on this yellow wire because it actually goes to your alternator. Right here is the alternator plug, but then it ties back into the harness at another one of those junctions, and this actually goes to your emergency brake light check relay, which is located under the seat. I had to kind of back trace this, and I'll show you what relay that goes to. So if I open this car up, it actually goes to this relay right here. That's that yellow wire there, and that's for your emergency brake light check. So before you actually start the engine, that relay is not energized, so it actually makes your emergency light come on your dash, your brake light. And once you crank the engine up, the alternator generates power. It turns that relay on, taking away that light. That's how that all works. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a delay circuit right here on this wire, so it has like a 10-second delay. So when you turn key on, that relay does not energize for 10 seconds. And then once that 10 seconds up, it energizes that relay, and your emergency light has done its job, basically. So that's what we're going to be doing there. Let me get this right here. The black wire, of course, is earth ground, or chassis ground in this case. Let's see, we've got white black here, which actually goes to the alternator in this harness as well, to this plug. So that's a white black wire. And then we've got green. I think it's green with a white stripe, with a red stripe. I'll tell you in a minute, make sure I'm telling you that correctly. Oh, it's just a solid, it's a green with a yellow stripe. That wire is actually switched 12 volts. So that's what we're going to need. I'm going to keep that around for other accessories. The blue wire is actually the one that goes up to your charge warning light. So when your alternator is not charging, this is the wire that actually goes to that light. This is very easy to do because it's already 12 volts on it, and so all I got to do is put a diode in this wire and connect it to one of the pins of the alternator, and this will function just like it did originally with the regulator. So that's all I got to do that. I've already done testing with that before I pull the harness. I can actually ground this wire here to ground, and it comes on. So that's all this wire has to do. So that's really the wires making this up. So with that, knowing what this is now, I can get rid of this mess right here altogether. And like I said, I'm going to be cleaning up some of these wires. I'm going to be taking some of these harnesses out and then actually just putting a larger gauge wire. I will have to tie them back in at some point because, as I was mentioning, we got a bunch of wires up here that are actually linked together in our actual harness. You can see multiple places, but that's where all this kind of comes in right here as well. So we're going to be cleaning all this up really heavily. But anyways, I just want to make a video showing you that real quick. Like I said, I can definitely see why you'd have a lot of problems with these wiring harnesses like that right there, oxidation. That's your primary input, because like I said, that goes to your starter. So that's where the 12 volts comes in, basically to your harness. Alright, so I'm making some progress, even though it doesn't really look that great. I've got our regulator wires kept that we want to kind of keep around for right now. I may do away with the white wire, which is the 12 volt non-switched. Right now I just kind of kept it for reasons of that, ideas I might have. But basically I eliminated all of our fusible links. This is actually the distribution wires to your main car. I've done away with the regulator wiring. This is your alternator connection. That's your regulator connection. I've done away with the actual alternator power wire. As you can see, they branched it into this thing some crazy way. It's really nasty there. And I got rid of our fusible links. This is actually where your primary 12 volts comes in, feeds these fusible links. That's actually where it was distributed through this harness. So I'm getting rid of all that junk. Going to clean this up really clean here, and actually get these where they're actually directly distributed by the thermal breakers. And that'll make this thing a lot better and a lot safer. Something else that's kind of mind-boggling, and this is something to keep in mind if you guys own a 76 280Z. I don't know if the 77, 78 is like this or not, but this is the only ground you've got right here. This is it. So if you're having issues, you might want to check your ground connection on your frame. This actually bolts up against the inner fender on the passenger side, and that's the only ground point you have for your whole harness, which is kind of crazy. And you can see they just branch everything into it. That's also your alternator ground, so that's where your alternator actually grounds up, and that's it. So anything that's got a ground is actually tied into this little bitty wire right there. So I'm doing away with this too. I'm going to clean all this up, put this on a nice little terminal block, and actually distribute this directly to the negative side of the battery, as well as put a, and I'll probably do it with an actual ground strap between the engine and the body, and that way we've got good grounds all throughout our car, because I think that could be a lot of the problems right there. But anyways, just finding some things there as I dissect this harness, some things I hadn't really paid much attention to, and we're making some progress here. But I just want to show you that real quick. And also I will point out too, if you guys want something to cut the loom open, I'm using one of these right here. It's actually it's a stitch remover, but it's got that little ball, and I can actually go in here and slide it through the looming, and it just cuts it a lot better. It's a really nice little tool to use for opening one of these up without damaging your wires. So just a cool tool to use there. But anyways, I'm going to keep at it and hopefully get this thing cleaned up really nice, and we'll have a good harness here when I'm done with it. Alright, making progress on this harness here. I've moved it actually inside the car just to kind of get an idea where layout is going to be. One reason I want to do this before I put the engine and everything in, just makes it a lot easier in this form. But I've added to our harness here, you can see these new red wires here. I've soldered everything I could. I had a few wires that wouldn't take solder. Just kind of happens with old wiring sometimes. But I did clean it up really good, and I've done a really hard crimp on these things. So they should be really good, no problems there. Of course, I'm going to water seal them as well. But I've extended our harness out. This is actually the wiring here that went to our actual fusible links. I've now ran those out and extended them over here and soldered these connectors on, because I'm going to take advantage of where our regulator mounted and our shunt resistor mounted. And I'm actually putting our thermal breakers right here. It's going to tie into all these. And then I'm going to have a actual bus line that runs across the actual breakers into a large 6 gauge wire. It's actually welding wire, and it's going to run all the way back over here to our starter on our car, so we get a good solid 12 volt connection to everything and no current limiting in the actual harness there. And I'm also going to tie back into the same bus with our alternator, so our alternator and sensing wiring will all be right here as well. So just make everything really clean, a lot more accurate than what we had originally, and got rid of all those little tie-ins. Also, I'm working on the ground still. I've got them just tied up here, but I'm going to be redoing this as well. I've actually got some heavier gauge wire coming for that. We actually had some of this ground wire that melted when I actually started taking it apart. And this is the only ground wire. Let me get it down here. This is the only ground wire we had. It's a little thin. Probably like a 10 gauge, I guess. But you can see this wire right here had melted. It actually got hot. And so I cut it back. I found why it got hot. It had a bad connection. And so I cut it back to where it didn't melt. And added new wire there. But I'm going to be doing a similar fashion here as far as soldering into a bus wire like they did here, where they tied in there, but the difference is I'm going to be using a heavier gauge wire so I don't have any problems. And of course there's also going to be an engine tie, a ground strap between the engine and the car as well. I'm adding grounds into the car which will also help eliminate any current draw directly from this ground here by adding other grounds in the dashboard and stuff. And just make sure we got good grounds. That's the biggest issue with these cars, I do believe. But I've decided to keep our this wire here is going to go to our charge warning light in our dash. So I've got to add a diode to that. This is actually a switch 12 volt. I've decided to keep that one, but everything else I got rid of that was associated with the regulator. I've got this wire right here, which of course I've mentioned earlier. It goes to our emergency brake check light. And basically it was energized with the alternator, but I'm going to be doing something a little bit different with that. I may put a time delay relay on that, so we can actually have like a 10-second time in when accessories is powered, and we'll give it 10 seconds just to make sure that relay kicks in, after 10 seconds. It's kind of what I'm thinking about doing there. But really, once I get the ground wire all fixed up here, because like I said, it's not going to be like this. This was just something I was doing just to kind of hold these all together so I could make sure I could get them all. I'm actually be making that loom. Once I get that wire in, I had to order it. Once I get that wire in for that, I can actually start soldering all this in and start looming all this back up in this section here. I'm also relocating some of our wiring, so you can see that we've got these wires here now moved up closer to where that bracket will be for the 260. I'm going to be probably putting GM connectors, weather kit connectors on a lot of this stuff, getting rid of some of these old sockets that just tend to corrode and oxidize, especially in the front where the headlights and stuff connect. Those are definitely going away. Those have become GM weather kit connectors. But I'm going to do that, and then that's kind of where we are. So right now I'm just kind of still getting the layout. I've got one other wire I've got to fix. As you can see, I went and bought some wiring here. I got one wire here that's actually got a nick in it, and it's actually started corroding internally. So I'm going to take that wire, cut it back to where it's clean, and actually re-jumper that with fresh wire. Solder it in there, shrink wrap it, and take care of that problem there. That's actually for the compressor relay harness right here, which will be going to that compressor relay that's in that bracket, and that'll take care of that. Alright, I have part of our harness reloomed here. I'm just kind of doing it in sections, just as I get stuff where I want them. But we've got all of our wires here fixed up where they're going to go to our panel right here with our thermal breakers. I've actually added, I forgot to document this in camera, I've actually got a big 6-gauge wire here that's going to be our primary ground. I got rid of the little bitty wire they had put in here. So this also works as our bus. I've actually got inside here and I stripped away the insulation and I soldered it to all of our ground wires that are inside the actual harness. So it still works as a bus, kind of like it did earlier, but now it's got a big heavy gauge wire. But this is also going to be used to tie our engine. So it's going to connect over at the starter where our battery cable goes. and it's actually going to run over here. I've got it ran all the way through the harness, and we're going to be connecting it to the body through this harness as well. So this is going to be our chassis ground connection as well as our engine ground. So it's going to really make the grounding a lot better in here. Of course, I'm going to be cutting off these connectors and putting some General Motors weather seal connectors in here. But you can just kind of see how it looks. I brought out our alternator wire here. I got to put a diode in line with it. But this is our charge warning light inside the car. So this will be our charge warning light that'll still function just like it did when we had the regulator. But now it's just going to be connected straight to the alternator through a diode. So that'll work. And just got all that cleaned up. And I left these two wires here. This is our, like I said, this is the one for our warning light for our brake. It's a check relay. So I got to wire that in. This is a switch 12 volts. So I just kept this wire here as well. It'll be very handy to have this wire here for something. You know, I may even tie it back into this to make that circuit just come on with the ignition as well. I could just do it that way. It would work just fine too. You just won't get the little check, you know, the little run before you crank the engine. It won't light up. It'll be turned on with the ignition switch. So something else we've been working on. I have to give my dad credit for this. He's been kind of taking this apart, cleaning everything up, and we had a bad vacuum servo for the heater control. We actually found one. He did some research and found one that would actually work in the same way. So we've got it actually JB welded to the bracket. I had to modify this bracket a little bit, but we got that installed. All new hoses, and so we got this thing actually set up where it's going to work. I actually had a portable air conditioner go bad. The compressor still worked, but it just had a freon leak. So I took the compressor out of it and actually I made a vacuum source here for it. I'll show you how this thing works. So we'll start with AC. When we go to vent, it actually opens this up, and you'll kind of see how this all works. That's your fresh air. But let's just show you how this works. Let's go here and power this thing up. So we got the compressor on, making vacuum. So I go to vent, you'll see that this actually opens here, which is actually where your fresh air comes into your fan, your blower. If I go to bi-level, you'll see this little door right here open halfway, like so. When I go to fresh air, you see it open all the way. So that's actually fully open there. So you can see that's half off. I can just turn this with my hands. So now we are at bi-level. We'll go fresh air, it fully opens. So now that's our heater core down there. We'll go to recirculate, which now shuts this up. You'll see some smoke come out of this compressor here. It's building vacuum. And we go to defrost. You'll see that open up, and that stays open as well. And then that's how it works. We'll go back here to that's fresh. That's still open. AC. It shuts that off. It closes up our heater core there. And that's how that works. So that's actually your air coming in from your blower. What you got a picture, this is blowing air through here. So that's no heater. Bi would be heater with a little bit of air conditioner. Well, actually, that'd be a heater with some air coming through your evaporator there. So it probably would be a mixture of air conditioner, I guess. Then we got fresh air, which will shut that up completely, like so. Anyways, just giving this a quick test to see if all this vacuum stuff works, and it does. It works just fine. But anyways, thought you guys might like to see that in operation there a little bit. It's pretty cool stuff. All right, I now have my air conditioner mounted in the car here. As you can see, it bolts up with those two bolts there. I got two bolts underneath on the transmission tunnel there. And also this little line right here, I got there, but there's those two screws there. Blower motor is mounted up. It's got a screw at the back, one over on the other side down there, and then one right there. And of course our harness, everything plugs in right here. That's our resistors for our fan speed. Of course, our fan motor there. But making progress here. This vacuum line you see laying right here, that actually goes to our, I'll just hook that up right here, what's on my mind. That goes to our servo for the fresh air controlling this this actual blower. So it actually opens up and lets the cow air come in for the fresh air. And so now I got to put in our defrost pieces here. And basically just getting it ready to mount the dash. That's where I'm working on right now. I got the wiring, just somewhat done here. This is still loose. Of course, I've got our engine bay harness just pulled through temporarily. I'm going to be pulling that back out and doing some more work there. But it's coming together. But just thought I'd show you that real quick and show you what I've been doing. I've also got our brake booster removed from our 280Z. I replaced it a few years ago. It's actually for our 240, I do believe. But I got that installed. Got our clutch, master cylinder just kind of sitting there still. Just making sure everything kind of lines up in the pedal. It's a lot easier doing all that with the dash out of the car than when you're laying on your back under the car trying to get all the pins and everything in all those pedals. It's not too bad on this car, but it's not a Corvette, luckily. Corvettes are terrible about that. But I got just some of the stuff I'm going to take back out and clean up. You can see I've got some stuff just mounted here to make sure everything's going to work. I actually had to relocate this guy before I had the car painted because the actual linkage moves over on the 260, and I had to move this over that way for the 280 to line up with the throttle linkage on the actual intake manifold. So I had to do that. But I had to do this a little bit different too. I got a heater hose ran through the car because I had to change that vacuum control valve. I couldn't get one just like what it was on it, so I had a shorter port. So I actually ran the hose inside the car and just had to do it that way. I looked at the market on every kind of piece and part and couldn't find anything that was exact, but that'll work just fine. So I'm not, it's my car, so I'm not real worried about it. I'm not reselling it or nothing. But got that done, and just like I say, just working on getting the dashboard ready to go in the car. Of course, you guys, I've got a video on this whole dashboard that I've redone. So this is the dashboard. I've actually got a brand new pad on this one, which I've got a video putting that on this frame and everything, if you guys want to see that. Making progress. Just a slow progress, it's a slow process because I've had to actually take things between the 280Z and put them into this early 240Z. So basically a 260Z. I'll get it right in a minute. An early 260Z, which is basically a 240. So there's some things I'm having to kind of like, double check, make sure things are going to fit, figure out new ways of mounting certain things because they're not the same in areas. But I'll show you the 280Z. So here's what's left inside the 280. I've still got my steering column and controls there and stuff, but all that is out of the car. And got the master cylinder off the brakes. This was an automatic car, so it didn't have the clutch master cylinder or anything like that. Still got the transmission, still got to get the hood latch. Somebody actually crimped that thing shut where you pull the cable through. So I got to spread that out to get the cable out. But I can do that once the dashboard is in the car. I found out where it's located. It just runs right down here, so it's not a big deal on putting that in after the dash is in the car. But I think the only thing I lack is the speedometer cable, and I think that's really about it. The wiper motor and everything there is in the cowl, so it'll come out the cowl, and that's how that'll work. But got the air conditioner stuff just put back in this car temporarily, just get out of the floor in there. It's working around it. I just kind of stuck it back in here, but that'll all be coming back out when I'm ready for it. But yeah, it's kind of sad, like I say, to see this car go like it is, but it's just the rust damage that's in the back of it that's the biggest problem with this car. And here's what the defrost pieces look like. Right there. It's a lot easier doing all this with the windshield out because you got to get these little screws back here, and with the windshield in, it is a pain to get to those screws. Because I found out on the 280, these are out of the 280 as well, and they all match up just fine. I'm actually at the point now where I'm getting ready to install the dashboard and just replacing these old rotten pieces of air duct. As you can see, I've replaced them here. Cut them down to size and got all that fixed. I'm just going over everything kind of one last time here inside just to make sure everything looks good. And also I have installed a new cable for the speedometer. So we've got a new speedo cable coming through there. And of course you guys have already seen the air duct. Got the all that ran up real good here. But that's where we are. So now we're getting ready to mount the dashboard. And very exciting. That's the exciting part. Alright, dashboard's officially in the car here. Just got it all installed. Got our center bezel in. Put new weather stripping, everything on the vent housing as well. So that should seal a little bit better. But looks way better than it did. Of course, this is the dashboard out of the 280Z with a new pad on it. So pretty much everything in this car came out of the 280, pretty much. There's a good look at it from the back angle here. See how good it looks. And of course, I don't know if I've showed you yet or not, but I've redone the tail lights as well. I got these tail lights all redone. I just got them temporarily kind of installed, like I put the gaskets, and I don't have the harness on one of these lights. That's got the harness. Yeah, it's this one over here. I don't have the harness on it yet. But just kind of mocking things up back here as well. It's coming together. It's not like a car again anyways. It's the next day here, and actually it's a pretty wet and nasty day at that. But testing everything out in the car, I decided to go and just test what we have so far. So I've got all of our harnesses reconnected into the junction terminal block that you saw. Since this was a major change, I decided to go in and just trial this. But you're going to kind of laugh at this, but don't judge me. I'm using my tractor as the battery source for this car. I've got a chassis ground connected with a jumper cable there. And this black wire is actually going to be the body ground. I hadn't cut the harness yet, so I've still got this long wire. And I've got it jumpered over there at the battery as well with the jumper cable. Just kind of squeezing it to the battery terminal. Of course, I need to clean these battery terminals on this tractor. And then I've got our positive just on the little gator clip there, and it's going out over here to our junction here I've made. This is going to be eventually individual thermal breakers, as you see here, but this is a high current one. This is not going to be the current I'm going to use. But basically it'll make up the little junction block I'm going to make, like so. So I've just got one feeding everything for right now, because of course we're not turning this car over. We don't have any kind of major current draw with what we're doing. But I just temporarily got some relays hooked up here, just testing a few things. And also I'll show you too how this this brake system warning check works. I've actually done some testing here to make sure my theory was correct. And it is. It works just like I thought it did. So I've kept this 12 volt switched wire from what was our voltage regulator harness, which is now gone. And I kept this wire here, which is that brake check wire I brought up earlier. But I'll show what this thing does. Let's go here and turn the ignition switch. The only thing that's not working yet is the buzzer. For like when you turn the fasten seatbelt buzzer. I'm actually going to keep that. I know a lot of people get rid of that, but I kind of like it. It's kind of sentimental to me, because it reminds me of my first Z. But here's our actual emergency check relay. I've got it connected here. Been testing fuses and checking for shorts, that kind of stuff as well. But if we go in here, let me actually kind of climb in the car. Give me a minute. It's not very easy to do. Let me climb into the car like this. Kick some stuff out of the way there. So if I'm in the car here, we can turn on our switch here. I can hear the timer relay for our buzzer. Hear it click off. So that circuit's working, just the buzzer's not working. So I got to figure out what's going on between the timer circuit and the actual buzzer over here. But you can see our voltage gauge works. Our clock is running. So that's good. We can't really test the headlights or turn signals because we don't have any of that wired up. We just kind of straddled the transmission tunnel. But you can also see our emergency brake light. So that's part of that check circuit. It goes off when you have an alternator charge. And that's using that wire out there, that yellow wire. I'll kind of show you how that works. But our blower motor works. It's blowing good air out of all the vents. I replaced all the air duct, as you guys have seen. It's blowing good in all the vents. So that's really good. Our map light works, as you guys can see. So it actually works. And even our cigarette lighter works. Takes it a few seconds. Should pop out here in a second. There it is. And it's glowing nice and red. So that's working as well. So our cigarette lighter is working. Just a cool little thing. I'm not going to use it. But all that's working. Our actual, we can't test the headlights or anything, but we can test our dash lights. That one's burning. I'm going to have to pull this one out. It's not lighting up. Something's wrong there. So I got to check that out. This one's lighting up. Of course, it's kind of hard to see. That one's lighting up. And our clock is lighting up. So all is working except for this one. So I got to see what's going on there. Those are LEDs. So those are actually LED backlit. So that part of it's working. I can also hear, when I turn a key on, I can hear our windshield wiper relay. You actually hear it time in. We got it on fast right now. It takes a few seconds to hear it. I'll bring you down here so you can kind of hear it. You can kind of hear it kicking on and off there. So that's working. So our windshield wiper relay is working okay. Like I said, I can't really test turn signals because we don't have the lights and it requires load to make all that work. So it won't do anything. But once we get some load on it, that will start working. But anyways, that's a good start. I'll show you also this emergency system check right quick. I'll show you how that works. So we'll actually turn the key back on here. Let me get back out of the car. Alright, so I'm now back out of the car here, and you can see that our warning brake light is on. Our brake warning light. And what's going to happen, I'm going to touch that yellow wire to 12 volts, and you'll hear that relay there kick. And basically signifying that our engine is running, and we're now ready to check for proportioning valve issues and the emergency brake being engaged. So if I take our gator clip here and connect it to this switch 12 volt wire kept from the regulator, you'll hear that relay kick, signifying the engine is now running. And you'll see that our brake light is out. And so now it's actually looking at the actual circuitry. So if we were to actually ground out like this wire here, which is for our emergency brake, you'd see that light come back on. If we had a proportioning valve issue, like we lost the front brakes, rear brakes, and that proportioning valve changed position, it would actually turn on the light as well. So that circuit's actually working. And like I said, I'm still thinking about doing something with this here. And I'm actually tempted, I may actually wire it into the fuel pump, because it doesn't draw hardly any current at all. And I could use the fuel pump as the actual on-off, possibly. That's the only thing I know that doesn't just come on with ignition. And the way the alternator is, I may could build a circuit to do it actually. I may could actually do that. But anyways, that's still kind of in a experimental area there. But I know it works the way I thought it did based off the manual and everything. So that's good. But anyways, that's about all the checks we can do right now till I get more of this car assembled. So I think that'll probably do it for this video. But I appreciate you guys watching, and really hope you enjoy this project. I know it's kind of bleeps and blips here as far as what's going on with it, but you know, like I say, just working on it between our other Z-Car projects and my full-time job, and so I just kind of piece these things together as I have time. But getting this dashboard in was a major success. That's it actually feels more like a car now than a shell, just having that much of it done. But anyways, guys, appreciate y'all watching. There'll be more here to come here very soon. Take care.